This is the Farm Monitor. For over 50 years, your source for agribusiness news and features from around the Southeast and across the country, focusing on one of the nation's top industries, agriculture. The Farm Monitor is produced by one of the largest general farm organizations, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now here are your hosts, Ray DeLesio and Kenny Bergamy.
Well, look who's back. Yes, last week Kenny B had me flying solo, and dare I say, good to see you again, my man, but I do have to say, I was lost without you, and you have been a very busy man.
Yes, a little work, a little play, but I'm ready to go.
I second that notion, and as always, we have got a great show for you coming up. Remember that late freeze in March? Well, blueberry producers are now feeling its effects, but it's not the only thing causing them to lose sleep.
On the flip side, Southeastern dairy farmers can rest easy knowing this person's in their corner. John Holcomb sits down with the Dairy Alliance Director of Corporate Communications, FARRAH NEWBERRY, and what she says is the best way to promote the dairy industry. Plus,
well, hey everybody, Ranger Nick coming up a little bit later. Is there anything more majestic than a white-tailed deer in the woods? And this month I'm hanging out at the Whitehall Forest right here in Athens, looking at white-tailed deer and what scientists are doing to study them, their movement, their vision, human interface conflicts, all that and so much more starts right now on the Farm Monitor.
While Georgia might be known as the peach state, it's actually blueberries that are king when it comes to fruit production over the past decade. However, as Damon Jones reports, this year's crop will be a little shorter than usual due to several challenges the growers had to deal with over the past few months.
With harvest season now in full swing, consumers are now snapping up fresh Georgia blueberries for their smoothies and pies. However, there will be less of them on the shelves this year as a late freeze in March that saw temperatures fall into the 20s wiped out more than half of the crop.
We're happy to be here. This has been a tough year for the blueberry industry in Georgia, as most people know, and it's been published. We've lost probably over 60+ % of the crop to the early freezes. The other areas of Georgia, such as Clinch County, Bacon, and Appling County, towards the east of here, were hit harder than we were.
Freezing temperatures aren't the only obstacle these growers were forced to overcome this year, as untimely rain could also mean the potential for poor fruit quality.
As we get into the June rainy season, it becomes a different dance. The fruit is blue, it's ripening. If you get heavy rains, you get splits in the fruit. That creates opportunities for disease, it creates insect opportunities, so there's a lot of pressure on getting the harvest in.
But getting that fruit off the bush as quickly as possible can be a daily balancing act, as summer weather in Georgia can be unpredictable.
As the day goes on today, you'll see pop-up showers, and you never know where they'll show up, and it can change the type. You may change from one variety of fruit to another depending on what's going fresh, what's going processed. That's the battle in June. The rains keep coming. You really don't want to see anything like a hurricane. A shower's fine, but a 1 or 2 inch thunderstorm can be devastating to a field. It can really damage and split the fruit. We have to wait until the fruit dries, and often that's difficult to do. If you get a rain on today, it could be 2 o'clock tomorrow before the fruit's dry, so that it's challenging to get it to go fresh. And often with the splits or the damage, we have to pick it like you see now. It's a little bit wet this morning, and it's still going to be, it'll be a processed berry for frozen, but it'll make a good quality grade. It just won't be that fresh pack.
Despite all of the challenges affecting the quantity, the quality still remains high. And the same can be said for the demand, which should benefit the growers price-wise, especially with all the shortages around the country.
The quality's been overall pretty good this year. And of course with the packing sheds and the equipment we have, we're able to deliver a quality product. We can, the machinery will extract soft fruit, damaged fruit, off-color fruit, so we're able to deliver a good product to the consumer. The demand is very high because the crop is short. We've had a really good year as far as demand. It's just unfortunate that we lost some of our fruit to the early freeze.
Reporting from Atkinson County, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.
Well, the more things change, the more they stay the same, right? One thing that never seems to change in the ag industry is the ongoing labor situation. Every year, farmers and ranchers struggle with finding enough workers for their operations. American Farm Bureau's Chad Smith on why the ag sector continues to battle this issue.
New data confirms the serious shortage of adequate labor across most sectors of U.S. agriculture. Veronica Nye, a senior economist with the American Farm Bureau Federation, says farmers have talked for at least a decade about a tight farm labor market.
The recent H2A data certainly proves that out. In the second quarter of fiscal year 22, which is January through March, the number of applications for H2A workers, which is the temporary ag worker visa program, increased by more than 17% year over year. The number of certified positions increased even more. It was up by 21%.
One of the reasons the labor market is so tight is that the unemployment rate in rural America is often lower than the rest of the economy.
For example, the state of Nebraska has a current unemployment rate of 1.9%. So those farmers who are already having trouble getting workers out to their farm for long hours and hot weather and oftentimes difficult work are finding it even more difficult because of an already tight labor market.
The labor shortage has been going on for a long time. However, recent data shows that the issue is spreading further than farms and ranches.
In the past, it was maybe more of a production ag problem, on the farm. But over time, it's gotten worse and spread throughout the supply chain. So trucking companies are having trouble finding workers. Ag processors are having trouble finding workers. Rural areas at large are struggling to find workers. So certainly it's been an issue in agriculture for a long time, but it certainly seems to be compounding and growing as time continues.
Chad Smith, Washington.
After serving Georgia dairy farmers for over 20 years, FARRAH Newberry has found greener pastures, so to speak.
But as the Monitor's John Holcomb reports, she took her relationships, experience, and most importantly, her passion for the industry with her.
For FARRAH Newberry, one thing's for certain: dairy and its success is her passion, which is why for more than 2 decades, she has worked tirelessly to promote dairy in the dairy industry here in Georgia. It was a task she started right out of college when she was hired to serve as the Georgia Milk Producers Executive Director, and since then hasn't taken her foot off the gas.
I grew up in Gwinnett County, not on a farm, and went to ABAC and UGA and ended up in agriculture because I just fell in love with the people in the communities. Graciously hired by our dairymen and to serve as their executive director for 22 years. It was a very rewarding job. I was very passionate about what I did, loved representing the farm families and trying to get regulations and laws passed that would help them on the farm.
Earlier this year, FARRAH transitioned into a new role in the industry and now serves as the Director of Corporate Communications for the Dairy Alliance. But just because she has a different title doesn't mean the goal has changed, and that's to support and promote the dairy industry.
Our end goal every year, year in, year out, is to build dairy sales, but also to improve our trust with consumers and with the farming community, show that we are making a really high quality product that provides really 13 essential life nutrients that at a very affordable price. So we just need to get our message out to consumers that we do want to make the product that they're asking for, and that we do try to follow animal welfare guidelines, environmental guidelines, to make sure that we're doing what's best for the environment. And then, just that our families live on these farms that we're producing, so we want to do things right, and we want to make a good product, but we also are proud that it's very affordable for consumers across the Southeast.
FARRAH believes the best way to promote the dairy industry is through education and programs they have that encourage dairy in schools, that in turn will encourage dairy in homes.
We have to start young, so we have to make sure that we have a good product in the school system. We want kids to have a good experience with milk, so we make sure that the school nutrition directors are educated on how to keep milk cold and make sure they're serving it, to our students, and that kind of builds a milk drinker. And then we need to reach out to the moms that are going to the grocery store and buying those products. A lot of millennial moms and even Gen Z moms are buying alternative beverages, milks, because they believe they're more healthy. And in reality, we know that for a very affordable price, you're getting a really good product for you and for your children. So we have to reach those moms and talk about the goodness of milk. And then, even during times of COVID, that this product will help build your immune system And so I think that that's the end goal, is to make sure we reach those consumers and start at a very young age, and reach those consumers that are buying our products in the stores.
Reporting in Bowersville for the Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
Well, hey everybody, Ray and Jeanette coming up. We're talking white-tailed deer with a scientist at UGA, how they're studying their behavior, how they interact with people, and how this building is used to study them after the break. Well, you hear me talk a lot about some of the wonderful things going on in the Warnell School of Forestry and Natural Resources, and we're talking about experiential learning for students, but there's also a lot of research that's happening related to wildlife. I'm standing around some wildlife today. Oh dear. Let me introduce a dear friend of mine, Dr. Gino D'Angelo.
Good to see you, Nick.
Oh, I'm so glad to be with you today, and so happy that you're getting a chance to see the folks at home, because I want to learn about some of the things that you're studying as a deer biologist in the Warnell School with regards to white-tailed deer. Tell me something. What do you study about these individuals in this pen that we're in right now? What are some questions you're working on right now?
Yeah, well, right here at the Whitehall Deer Research Facility, we've got 6 acres with about 50 deer. And so these deer are a captive audience for us. We can take information here and apply it to our field studies. Right now, we're learning more about how they see the world, so their vision, their eyes are much different than ours. How we can work with their stress levels, how we can collect blood and fecal information to learn about how they're stressed under different scenarios here, and then apply that information to the field.
When you say vision, how do you study their vision? I mean, is it like you can't go to the doctor, A or B, A or B? What are you doing to study that?
We do some work like that, actually. These tame deer here that were bottle raised, so they were taken from their mother and raised on a bottle with milk like you would a domestic animal, and so they're willing to work with us. We can bring them into our barn and we can show them different targets, and they choose what they can see under different lighting scenarios, different colorations, and so we learn more about how they perceive the world through those sorts of means. We also can immobilize them chemically, like when you go to the dentist or doctor and they put you under, and we can bring them into a controlled laboratory and expose their visual system to different frequencies of light, and their brain will tell us through brain waves what colors, what movements are more perceptible to them.
That is amazing. Imagine being a student working with Dr. D'Angelo on this kind of work. It's incredible. Doc, I want to go to that barn that you were talking about a second ago. I want to go in there and see the way you're working with these deer in that environment, and I want to bring the folks at home there next, so let's do that. Well, y'all know I'm an animal lover. And what you're looking at there is something that'll break your heart. That's a deer stuck indoors. Doc, what do we do about that? How do we help an animal like that in a humane way? And how does this place help you do that?
I'm sure your viewers have seen dart guns, wildlife professionals shooting a dart into an animal, an immobilizing drug which makes that animal go to sleep so that they can help it out of that emergency situation.
Right.
And so we're working with immobilizing drugs here to find new cocktails that reduce the stress of an animal, reduce the pain if they're in an emergency situation like that, to increase the safety for the animal and people. And so this is our captive animal handling facility. And what you see is we're able to move these animals from outside pens. So we've got 6 acres. We need to move these deer to where we can handle them. We bring them into this squeeze chute. We close this guillotine door behind them. The animals in this chute, we direct them up this ramp. And as they move through it, we can close these doors so they're in a safe place. They calm down, it's dark in there. Move them up into the next section, close the door. Once they're calm here in this squeeze chute, we can drop out the floor, and that animal's now immobilized. They're squeezed like a hand holding them. And we're able to open this up and give them those immobilizing drugs. So then we can test it and see, what is their stress like? How long does it take for them to become immobilized? We release them from this, and they run out into this observation pen where we can see how long does it take them to go to sleep. Do they move in a slow way that's not going to cause them to trip or fall into a creek bed or whatever it may be? Are they going to run across suburban Atlanta and run across a road? And so we're able to see how those drugs most effectively bring that animal down, so then we can remove them from that situation to a safer place to evaluate their health.
Wow, and think about what's going on here at Warnell. This kind of research to help these deer in a humane way and help the public, help first responders, help police officers, DNR, game, wonderful. Gino, I want to end today by talking about potential diseases in deer, maybe the folks at home have heard about. So let's move there next. But what a wonderful facility this is, taking care of these deer. Well, if you do a search for white-tailed deer online, you're probably going to come across the letters CWD, chronic wasting disease. It's a problem in white-tailed deer. And Doc, what is it that we should be worried about with regards to chronic wasting disease?
Yeah, it's a disease we're learning more about every day. In fact, several of our research partnerships work on discovering more about the disease. It was first found in Colorado in 1967 in mule deer, and now we find it in 27 states of the U.S., including our neighboring Alabama. So it's a concern that deer in Georgia might have chronic wasting disease. We haven't seen it yet. Department of Natural Resources is testing deer in Georgia for it. It's an infectious disease caused by a rogue protein, and those proteins migrate to the brain and cause essentially the brain to become like Swiss cheese in the animal. So you see degradation of their body condition. They waste away, they become emaciated, they act uncoordinated, they stop feeding, and eventually they progress to death.
Wow, and I can see this in a deer, in a herd, on my property potentially, and what might I do about that?
Deer that are sick or appear to have died for no other reason should be reported to Department of Natural Resources. But I should say there are a lot of diseases and accidents that occur that cause deer to die and become sick for other reasons, not just chronic wasting disease. But those animals can be tested.
Something to be on the lookout for and to be thinking about when you're doing your searches online and thinking more about white-tailed deer. Doc, thanks so much for today. Gosh, I appreciated this. Had a good time with you. I hope you had a good time at home there as well. You know what to do. Check out online, check out the Ranger Nick Facebook page, check out the Farm Monitor Facebook page and what the guys are up to there. And until next time, for the Farm Monitor, I'm Ranger Nick, reminding you, as I always do, that enthusiasm is contagious. So pass it on. Y'all, thanks so much for watching. We're going to see you right back here again, this time next month. See ya.
When we come back, while it's not a threat to human health or food safety, African swine fever can be deadly to both domestic and wild swine. The countermeasures USDA is taking should it ever find its way to U.S. soil.
African swine fever, or ASF, was first found in East Africa about a century ago and has spread around the globe. Although ASF does not pose a threat to human health or food safety, this terrible virus has devastated the swine industry around the world and thus impacts food security.
It's true that the United States is not affected by the disease. It never has been affected by the disease. But the best thing that we can do is to try to keep the disease controlled in the places that are right now, and if it's possible, trying to eradicate the disease from some of the places where the disease is right now. And that probably is going to be the best approach in order to avoid to have the disease coming to our country.
To put in perspective, when the disease hit China, it wiped out about half of China's pig population. And China's a major source of swine, so it wiped out about a quarter of the world's pig population. And the effects were seen even in the U.S., even though the disease is not the U.S. We have seen a very large increase in price of pork.
Having a tool like a vaccine will probably change drastically the rules of how.
In 2010, Dr. Manuel Borca and Dr. Douglas Gladue began to work to solve this global problem. As of early 2022, ARS patented 5 experimental vaccines and granted 14 licenses to pharmaceutical companies interested in commercially developing them for ASF. One candidate, ASF Delta I-177L, has shown so much promise that ARS partnered with the Vietnamese company Navetco to implement a full vaccine development plan.
This vaccine has offered 100% protection to domestic swine. Places like China that have been suffering outbreaks since 2018, or in Vietnam as well, they haven't been able to control the disease using the current tools that they have. So a vaccine could be used as part of a control program to get the outbreaks under control in these endemic areas.
If successful, this will provide for the first time a key tool for controlling the disease in countries affected by ASF, which is the most efficient way of preventing this disease from reaching the United States.
We do a lot of research, and in the case of the ASF vaccine, it's been a pretty exciting road to see our discovery have so much interest for commercial partners, and to see that the vaccine being commercialized right now is getting pretty close, or is at least reachable.
For decades, ASF and other important disease research has been conducted at the Plum Island Animal Disease Center in New York. That will soon change as a new state-of-the-art facility is currently being constructed in Manhattan, Kansas. Once operational, NBAF will advance the rapid development of vaccines and other medical countermeasures to combat dangerous pathogens like ASF.
NBAF will have capacities that Plum Island just doesn't have to take the research that's being done and translate it into applied products and applied countermeasures against these diseases. And we'll do that by scaling them up to a larger scale than can currently happen in Plum Island laboratories, and by making sure that the research that we do can be translated to an external partner for large-scale production. This work is very important economically, agriculturally for the United States, and the best way to prevent these diseases from coming to our shores is to fight them where they're already occurring.
All right, thanks so much to USDA for that, and thank you for making this show possible.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time right here on the Farm Monitor. Stay safe and have a great week.